Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we have three pretty random TCG exclusives coming in the 2024 Megatins Dueling Mirrors. These are some interesting cards. These are very specific in the way they work, but there's some pretty interesting stuff here, plus the artwork looks really cool in them at the very least. So we're going to go over some TCG exclusives, see if they bring any spice to the game and have any application competitively, and go from there. But let's start off with our new polymerization card. This is heavy polymerization. Only a few polymerizations have, really held up in terms of competitive usage, but let's see if this one joins the fray. So heavy polymerization is a normal spell card. It says, fusion summon one fusion monster from your extra deck using 3 or more monsters from your hand or field as material. You can also banish monsters from your extra deck as material up to the number of monsters your opponent controls, but you lose life points equal to the total attack of the monsters banished this way when the monster is fusion summoned. So bunch of words here that basically say this card's worse than polymerization going first, but this card actually does have some niche application going second. There are some generic fusion monsters you can summon off this card. There are even some non-generic fusion monsters you can summon off of this card. But it is kind of Shaddoll Fusion-esque. It just doesn't get the stuff banished that you want, but it does kind of just summon out a fusion pretty freely on its own going second, assuming your opponent has 3 different monsters on the field. So here's where we end up. I think this card's probably not going to see too much play overall. It's a cheeky card. It's interesting to me, but I think it just needs too much. I think the first thing is being really bad going first and only really playable going second. That's not the killer, right? Because that means a deck that has a lot of extra deck space and actually maybe in the side deck going second, or a deck that already opts to go second could make use of this card, assuming you have extra deck space. But that's part of it too, is you have to have enough extra deck space that you're willing to play cards that are basically, in most scenarios, only coming up just because you need those specific materials to make whatever fusion you're trying to make. It also locks you out of certain fusions because this card requires 3 or more monsters at least. I believe even if you are banishing from extra deck, you still have to use 3 or more monsters, which means any fusion that does not have, so most fusions will be something like this one monster plus 1 or more of these. That's it's something you see in synchros all the time. There's also fusions that kind of say that. I believe if there's a fusion monster that specifically says only 2 materials, not like 2 plus or 1 plus on the second half of the material, and it can't take more than 2 monsters, I don't even think you can use this card to summon that monster. So I think some monsters may already be eliminated from even being summoned, no matter how good they may have looked like they could have worked here. But that's definitely important to note. Aside from that, the life points are brutal. Life points are definitely brutal because theoretically you could be paying, almost 8,000 life points if the monsters you want to banish from extra deck to fill the material requirements, are pretty big. Now, you would want to build down, and if it's a somewhat generic, fusion monster in terms of what it requires for materials, then sure, you could try to look around and still fill those with smaller monsters in the extra deck, but still pretty scary nonetheless. So it's an interesting card for sure. I like that it's more going second tailored than anything, but I'm not sure I see it fully competitively being really awesome. But let me know if you guys disagree. Next up, Mind Castlin. Most people are going to like this one's artwork. She's cute, she's cute, futuristic, psychic synchro monster. She's a synchro 6, and she reads as follows. You can target, by the way, her materials are completely generic, any tuner plus 1 or more non-tuners. You can target a face-up monster your opponent controls. Switch control of that monster and this card. If this synchro summon card is sent to the graveyard, you can target one face-up monster on each field. Switch control of those monsters. So this card is kind of like a Synchro 6 form of Geonator Transverser, just a little bit more specific in how you have to go about making it, but it also offers a little bit of bonus, right, by being able to switch control of monsters so, give control of it to your opponent with the first effect, and then if you're able to remove her, she's going to let you swap again. There's also theoretically the idea where you can end on her and quick remove her on the opponent's turn to force your opponent to switch switch monsters with you. As well as, and doesn't even negate the monster. So, like, imagine playing Kashtira, or generically somebody plays Fenrir and they go special Fenrir, and you immediately, let's say, IP Masquerena with Castellan to clear her off the field. Then you use her effect to steal the Fenrir and give them something mid, some other body you have on the field, and then they lose their ability to use Fenrir as an extender. They have an awkward monster now that won't allow them to extend with just like copies of Unicorn, and you now have the Fenrir not negated, so you can now negate something whenever your opponent activates a monster effect. That'd be like really, really cheesy. But to me, this card's probably overall worse than Geonator Transverser. I just think Geonator Transverser's materials just being so generic and like still fitting most of like what this card does makes so this card's probably not better overall, but maybe we'll see a specific strategy come along that really is able to slide this card in quite nicely. But until then, we'll have to wait and see. And the last card we have here today is actually, funny enough, a follow-up to Nibiru. Nibiru's not really a theme or an archetype or anything. He's just kind of been his standalone self, but this is Thea, the Primal Being. So this is, I guess, the next, godly guy next to Nibiru, which is very interesting. So artwork's really cool. Let's see what he does. So he's also this looks like level 11. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, a level 11 rock monster, just like Nibiru is. His effects read: during the main phase, quick effect, you contribute monsters whose total levels equal 11 or more to special summon this card from your hand. Then, if you control no other monsters, you can destroy one monster on the field with the highest attack. Your choice if tied. This effect's really weird because it's not monsters your opponent controls. It's just yours, or it's overall. It's everything on the field. So this guy's 3,000. So if you quick summon him, you can choose to like pop the biggest monster on the field. Like there are decks that will have 3,000 or higher monsters, but like not always. This guy's going to give a pretty good run at being the biggest monster on the field. So you obviously don't want to pop your 3,000 beater. Not to mention tributing your own monsters as cost. Not the best thing either. Especially since most decks don't really summon level 11 or higher monsters very often. So tributing your own, like 2 of your own monsters most likely to summon this guy. You're kind of going neg there. Okay, and then last effect, neither player can normal and or special summon more than 4 times per turn while this card is face up in the monster zone. Okay, now that's a restriction. That is real, but like, again, he's going to be pretty easy to out, I would think. Like, most people are going to be able to, SP Little Knight him on, 3 or 4 summons, right? So you have to have him with other stuff. He's not enough on his own, but that is kind of scary, right? Nip says, like, if you summon 5 or more times, I can punish you. This guy just straight up says you can't even get to 5, which in certain decks can be very scary, but I'm just worried this card's summoning condition is asking too much and for not enough payoff. But I don't know. He's cool. It's cool that he's getting added to the lore. To me, honestly, I don't see too much competitive usage out of all 3 of these. They all are, like, cheeky in some way, shape, or form, but they don't all, like, none of them really, like, wow me. Like, whoa. Like, remember when we got Shifter, Nibiru, and Dark Ruler all in the same TCG, Megaton, and we all were like, wow, these cards are going to see play for years. Still do, all 3 of them at really high competitive levels. And since then, basically, the TCG promos in the Megaton sets have been, like, really, really bad. Just not even underwhelming, but, like, bad. Like, legacy support for TCG exclusive archetypes, and they literally do nothing for those decks to make them any better. And then weird cards like these that don't, like I'm saying, like, they're kind of cheeky, but I really don't see the competitive usage for them. So, at least at higher levels. So, those are my thoughts. Let me know your guys' thoughts down below. Just a couple of rando cards here. I'd still, these are also, they are really weird ones. And to be fair, I said these cards have something to them. They don't have nothing going on for them, but it's just not enough for me to really feel it. So let me know down below if you think there's a specific scenario these cards can be good in. But I'll obviously, other than that, keep you posted on all things Yu-Gi-Oh! News going forward. So subscribe to the channel, stay up to date on all things related to that. I guess I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. Peace.